almost 40 years.
39. It's my 39th
39
year.
years.
39th year.
This is a question a friend of mine, Ed O'Keefe, asked. He said, with all the tools you've learned and
Yes.
the wealth of information over 39 years, almost 4 decades,
Yeah.
the strategies to break people through, to help them overcome their challenges. If you had to strip them all away, you can always use one strategy or one thing to use. What would that be?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
Part of why I'm effective is because I don't buy that. I'm always looking for more strategy, because one strategy will work with one person, not with another. But philosophically, I would say that the capacity to strengthen and increase your hunger is the one common denominator amongst the most successful people. You know, Richard Branson's a good friend of mine, and Peter Guber, Steve Wynn, all these guys, they've never lost their hunger. Most people are hungry to achieve a certain amount, make a certain amount of money, and then they get comfortable and relax, or to get a certain level of fitness, and then they relax. But, you know, Richard is as driven today as when he was 16 years old starting. I mean, he's like on fire, and he's 65 years old. Warren Buffett is 85 years old. He's as driven today as when, you know, he began the journey, right? And so people that have that hunger, I believe intelligence, I love people that are wickedly smart. And I work to be wickedly smart by educating and training myself and so forth, and training my brain. But there's a lot of intelligent people can't fight their way out of a paper bag, right?
Absolutely.
Hunger is the ultimate driver, because if you're hungry, you can get the strategy, you can get the answer. If you can't model it, you can find it. So hunger, modeling would be maybe the next best skill, knowing that success leaves clues. Like, why reinvent the wheel? If someone took this plane, was Mickey's plane, who owns the Miami Heat and owns Carnival, right? I mean, you can learn so much from a man like Mickey. It'd blow your mind what this man has been able to do in his life. And so why would I go learn by trial and error and maybe take 10 or 20 years when I could learn from somebody in a few weeks or a few months or a few hours something that could save me a decade? That's what it is. That's why I read 700 books in the first 7 years, because I was like, if somebody takes 10 years of their life, they pour it into a book, and I can read that in an hour or 2 or 3 or 4, why wouldn't I?
So how does someone continue to stay hungry, or rediscover what they're hungry about?
The best way is get around where it's better and things will hit you.
Say it again.
Get around where it's better and things will hit you. Who you spend time with is who you become. So, you know, when I started coaching all these billionaires, you know, there's a part of me that said, I'm as smart in certain areas as they are. I got to step my game up. It's not about the money. It's about, how can I take the invisible and make it visible? How can I find a way to add more value to other people to such an extent where economics are not a question whatsoever? And then I can take those economics and do even more where I'm not there. I look at money as portable power. I can leverage my money to do things for people even when I sleep. Now, I love doing these for people, and I work 18, 20-hour days still, but it's really nice to have the leverage of that as well.
Too many of you talk about being it, but you're not living it. You want to be about patience and hustle. It's fun to say, to me, it's fun to tweet that you're a fucking entrepreneur. It's a lot harder to bleed 15 hours a day, every day for 15 years. One of my best friends in the world, Dustin Singh, fourth row back, that man and I drove back from Mount Ida College the day we left college. We drove back, we yapped it up, reminisced. It was it was over. Reminisced, got to the parking lot around 3 o'clock that day. We hugged it out. He went on his way, took a train. I walked into the liquor store as a 22-year-old, and I talked to that man 5 to 15 times for the next 8 years. True? I fucking worked, was patient, fucking bled, grinded, for real. Not, now it's made up my narrative as an entrepreneur and it's cool. I lived it. There's not a lot of people that know it, but he does. He knows the truth. He knows in college, I went fucking home every weekend on the Amtrak. Not Excel, I wasn't fancy back then. And fucking went and worked, and I'd come back. I left for the weekends. He also knows I didn't go to class, ever. He was also phenomenal at video games. He should be an esports star, but that's another story for another day. Nonetheless, the bottom line is, the difference, when people ask me questions or when I talk or things of that nature, the difference is I lived it. I don't just talk about it. And I get why you don't want to do it. And it comes from insecurity. You're worried. You know why you guys aren't patient? Because you want to win already to fucking stick it to your fucking parents, right? The reason you're impatient is less about you wanting to buy certain shit, though a lot of you are fucked up on that bullshit game. It's more because people are telling you you can't, you decide to do your own thing, and now you're on the clock and everybody's watching, and your grandma's telling you should have stayed in school. But you've got to understand, it doesn't matter if you win in the first half. It doesn't matter if you're up 17 going into the fourth quarter. You've got to win the actual game. You need to be shit on in your 20s and 30s so then you can fucking clown on people in your 40s and tell them I fucking told you. You understand? And the best part is you gotta love the fucking losses. Do you know how happy I am right now that they put a C before the K in my last name and misspelt it? I'm being dead serious. Like this is going great. I love your admiration. The number one thing I'm excited about right this fucking second on stage is they misspelled my fucking name. Cause I look at that and I'm like, yes. Cause I love losing. You know why I gave up on the Rangers and the Yankees? Because they won championships. You know why I fuck with the Jets and the Knicks? Because they suck. And that is the fundamental difference. And I promise you, my friends, it's binary. This whole thing, your fucking life is binary. It's a 1 or a 0. It is black or is it white. You are either gaining or you're declining. There is no in between. You're not kind of passive right now. You're not kind of in the middle. You're either winning or you're losing, right? And you've got to understand that all the things that you want, of course they should be hard. Do you understand the audacity? Do you understand that if you make $400,000 a year, that means you've entered the top 1% earners in this country? People talking about millions as like, I gotta make $1 million as like an entry point. And they don't even understand that 99% of people in America don't make $400,000 a year. We've got the whole game misframed. Everybody's confused. Let me tell you what you should focus on. A, you need to do some shit you like. Because if you don't, you will be outworked by somebody who loves that thing and they will beat you. That's the problem. If you don't love it, somebody will beat you because they love it, and that means they'll work 18 hours a day because you fucking love it, and you're working 11 because you like the money that comes along with it. Or 8, or supposed to be working 10, but it's really 4, and you're bullshitting and watching YouTube for 6. And so I am confused by people's inability to be humble, especially this audience. And I'm stereotyping, but let me tell you something that's pissing me off that is the great advantage of the collective culture downstairs. I think the reason I'm patient, and I think all the strengths I have about all the things I'm preaching right now, is because when you don't come for much, you already know. You already know that like you can be happy if you have a good household. You already know that you don't need a whole lot of stuff. You already know one nice pair of kicks is enough if you can't afford another. You already know. In life, you have 2 situations, binary. And they're both winning formulas or they're losing formulas. And they start the same way. You were born. And you were either born with too much because your parents are rich and they got shit, like my kids, or you're born with too little, the way I was born in a fucking piece of shit house in Belarus in Russia, right? That's it. You're either born with too much or too little. And both are strengths and weaknesses. Your fucking mindset decides it. I sit in rooms every day. And you guys know I love to sit with kids and jam and do shit. Almost every day, I have a situation. Every month, I will meet at least one person that's gonna cry to me that they don't have anything and it's hard, and they didn't get lucky and they got nothing and it's hard. And then I will equally have dinner with somebody else who will tell me that it's hard and difficult. Happened today downstairs because they had too much. They're not hungry because their parents did everything for them. Their mom and dad fucked them up because they gave them too much, which the people that have nothing, a bunch of you just sat. I've had people who have $50 million trust funds cry to me at dinner that their life sucks because they've never fought for anything, they never did anything, and they don't have any purpose, and they're lost, and they're suicidal. Which the people in here that were born with nothing are like, fuck you. Right? A bunch of you are like, fuck that, right? It's because you don't know the alternative. Everybody's pointing at everybody else without understanding. Nobody's deploying empathy. Nobody's deploying empathy. Everybody's worried about what's their issue without realizing everybody's got fucking issues. My friends, let's just get to the punchline. Nobody gives a fuck about your problems. Nobody gives a fuck about your problems because it's true. Either they've got their own fucking problems, right? Or they're just focused on some other shit, but they can't empathize with you. And more importantly, if you think that somebody owes you something because you started at a disadvantage, you're a fucking loser. You have to understand that's your advantage. Who do you think fucking rises and wins? Have you guys paid attention to what's actually happening on Earth? Have you guys paid attention to who actually wins? It's fuckers that had nothing, that had motivation to get something. We don't fucking know stories about he had this and then all of a sudden he made it big. Nobody gives a fuck about that story. There's no glory in that story. And guess what? That story doesn't exist a whole lot. You've got a lot of second generation people doing stuff, but by the third generation, everybody got so fucking soft. They're even doing nonprofits all the time, or they wasted all the money. I just ask you, would you much rather, do you know I used to cry in college because my dad had a liquor store and I was like, nobody's ever gonna give me credit because they're gonna always think that I was upset that there was a little something. And he was around, he knows it's not what everybody wants it to be when they're fucking coming up with excuses why I won and they didn't. I won because I fucking outworked you. I won because I had enough self-awareness to understand what I was good at. There's a lot of shit I wish I was. I just figured out what I was and what I liked, and then I just fucking outworked you. And I will always outwork you because I love the game more than the stuff. You just have to understand that. When you fucking love it, you can't beat me because I want to do it every second that I'm breathing. And so I need people to get to that place. The reason I'm doing everything I'm doing right now, that you're paying attention to, is because I'm trying to become your excuse, your shield, your thing that you can point to. Because if you trip and fall, you guys are worried about failing, and I'm trying to get you to point at me and blame me that it didn't work versus blaming yourself so that it gives you the courage to actually start doing shit. The only way you're gonna get the thing that's been running through your mind, the only way you're gonna get on that plane that you think you wanna be on when you were sitting downstairs eating french fries with your homie and chopping it up and saying what we're gonna be in 7 years, is if you fucking outwork everybody, figure out what you're good at, bring value to the people you're trying to sell, and just rinse and repeat forever till the end.